Indicted CEO Slayer Luigi Mangione has arrived in New York City, and instantly the photos set the internet on fire. On Wednesday, the NYPD posted this photo, which got a lot of unexpected reactions. Starting with MAGA troll Laura Loomer, who writes this: why is NYPD trying to make Luigi Mangione look like a celebrity? This is going to inspire copycats. Not good. Pastor Ben said, did the morons organizing this kabuki theater realize they're making him a legend with all of their antics? So that's a critique from the left against the NYPD. Jenna Wortham writes, this perp walk is not doing what y'all think it is. The fervor / romanticization of this case will be studied for ages to come. True. Stacey K writes, NYPD is really doing everything they can to make this dude look cool as hell. Now, speaking of that phenomenon, okay, the other picture that they posted, the NYPD, went even harder. Look at that. Damn. What is with all the tactical gear? All right. Is Luigi Mangione that much of a threat? He's in cuffs. Look, this guy, massive entourage as soon as he arrives in New York City. That includes Mayor Eric Adams, who's in the background. I'm going to have more on him, right? But this guy, he killed one insurance CEO who happens to be super wealthy in a very targeted attack, right? Now compare him, though, to Dylan Roof, who murdered 9 people at a black church and did so because he wanted to start a race war. Mangione was just like, these insurance executives are pretty much getting away with murder. So, they're parasites on the system. That's what he said, right? Whereas Roof, as I mentioned, tried to start a war between black people and white people, okay? And murdered 9 people to do so. Did Dylan Roof get a heavily armed perp walk? No, he got Burger King, literally. And not, by the way, speaking of what they got or what they didn't, Dylan Roof did not get a terrorism charge. Luigi Mangione did. Gee, I wonder why. Could it be the fact that, the wealthy elite are kind of scared right now? Scared out of their minds. So, that really shows you the difference here. The 2 tiers of America, right? Yeah, you kill a bunch of black people in church, murder them in cold blood. Well, that is not a terrorism charge, but murder, once again, in cold blood, a wealthy insurance company CEO, well, we're gonna have to upcharge him, hit him with that terrorism, you know what I'm saying? So wait, while the victims of Emmanuel A&E Church got thoughts and prayers, and by the way, all the victims of school shootings that we've had, mass shootings that we've had over the years, thoughts and prayers, everybody. That's just a price of freedom. But when a wealthy insurance CEO gets killed, suddenly those people in that same income class get special hotlines devoted to them in New York City if they're feeling unsafe. Now, if you're wondering if the police happen to do more to protect wealthy capitalists than average people, well, wonder no longer. This is your answer. Now, more responses here. Juniper writes, and this is actually the last response. The U.S. invited Benjamin Netanyahu, who was committing a genocide in Palestine, to speak to Congress. And this is how they're treating a guy who killed one guy. And I think that's very, very telling. And Netanyahu gets a standing ovation in Congress when he's invited. And this is a guy who is, again, very clearly performing a genocide in Gaza. Okay, they're going to annex Gaza. And by the way, now the Israeli government is saying, you know what, with that whole Assad situation, with him no longer being in power, guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna start seizing land in the Golan Heights. We're gonna expand our borders. Oh, okay, yeah. So there's that. All right. And yet the United States Congress is like, wonderful, Benjamin Netanyahu, what a statesman. And this guy, who I guess obviously more directly, killed someone. Okay. Terrorist. What a terrorist. Making the CEOs feel really, really scared right now. And we must protect the wealthy. We must protect the powerful. So, and there's a lot of pearl clutching, a lot of hand wringing over the response here, where a lot of people are like, I do not feel sympathy with Thompson. And then some that are like, Luigi did nothing wrong. Look, 41% of young voters polled found what Luigi had done acceptable. It's kind of insane when you think about it, because he clearly did do a murder, and I think murder is wrong. Okay, but like, that shows you the response, how much anger there is at our healthcare system, which 68,000 people die needlessly as a result of the inequities of our for-profit healthcare system, right? And there's anger at the super wealthy who run it and get money off denying people healthcare, which kills them in some cases, many cases. It kills them. So it just kind of shows you the differences here, right? Now, finally getting to Eric Adams, who is going to explain why he was there. He says, quote, I was at a conference a few days ago with the top CEOs, because of course he is, right? Meeting with CEOs of IBM, Deloitte, and it was a room full of CEOs and government officials. And the intentional shooting, and the response after really traumatized the entire industry. Not only the CEOs, but the employees. Really? Okay. There's no mention, by the way, of the numerous people that these companies have traumatized. No mention of that. No mention of that at all. Right? And by the way, Eric Adams indicted for corruption. I'm just saying. I'm not surprised that he is often in a room with these same very, very wealthy CEOs and only sees that, oh my God, they're so scared. They're so scared. He continued, I wanted to send a strong message with the police commissioner that we're leading from the front. Yes, I can see why, right? I'm not going to just allow him to come into our city. I wanted to look him in the eye and say that you carried out this terrorist act in my city, the city that the people of New York love. And I wanted to be there to show him the symbolism of that. Well, he showed something being there. Oh, yes. And there was a symbol, okay? But the symbol that a lot of people ended up seeing is kind of, I think, opposite of what you were going for. And it shows you, at least to me, how the United States governments in New York City respond when somebody dares to threaten capital. On Friday, the world's richest man, Elon Musk, sissy SpaceX himself, openly threw his support behind Germany's far-right party, which has been likened to a neo-Nazi party, saying that only they can save Germany. Now the endorsement was made on a post on X and appeared above a reposted video from a German right-wing influencer. So now the party is the AfD party. They are far-right. They're anti-immigrant. They're anti-LGBTQ. They're anti-feminist, traditional gender roles, all the stuff, right? They don't believe in human-driven climate change. They admit that the climate is changing, but it's not our fault. We didn't do it. It's somebody else. Probably the Jews. I don't know. Hey, I'm just saying they are an anti-Semitic party, even though they are very, very much allied with Israel. Well, I can't say allied, but they like Israel. It's just Israel doesn't like them back. So, that said, they don't believe in climate change, regulation on businesses, and oh, yeah, I figured out why Israel doesn't exactly like them. Turns out that they downplayed the Holocaust. Yeah. They're also very pro-Russian. In fact, one member of the AfD was accused of taking money from Russia to do propaganda in favor of that country. And in August of 2023, a journalist investigation was published by The Insider describing how money was funneled from Moscow to AfD politicians who initiated a constitutional complaint in Germany against weapons for Ukraine. So, there you go. What does this mean for Elon Musk? Well, Elon Musk supports a neo-Nazi party. That would make him a neo-Nazi. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? All the signs were there all along. Last year, Musk had questioned why the party was labeled an extremist party. He says, why is there such a negative reaction from some about AfD? They keep saying far right. The policies of AfD that I've read about don't sound extremist. Maybe I'm missing something. Well, if they don't sound extreme to you, that's probably because you're an extremist. If you agree with all these things, okay? There's more. In January 2024, it was revealed that senior members of the party, including Ronald Hartwig, then advisor to party co-leader Alice Weidel, attended a meeting alongside neo-Nazi influencers. Oh, shocker. Where plans for the deportation of millions of asylum seekers, non-assimilated people, and those with non-German backgrounds were discussed, including those with German citizenship and residency rights. Huh. Boy, that sounds pretty familiar. Now, speaking of Weidel, she enthusiastically received Musk's remark. Replying on X, she writes, "Yes, you are perfectly right," before touting her recent interview about how the socialist Angela Merkel, yes, that's right, socialist, ruined our country, and referring to the Soviet European Union as a destructive force for Germany. Nobody's been more of a destructive force for Germany than the Germans. I'm just saying, the whole World War I and II, not a good track record, okay? And by the way, most Germans agree. Like, yeah, terrible track record. That's why we are very, very ashamed of that. But the AfD is like, you know what? We should stop being ashamed of that history. Oh, yeah. Now, speaking of other Germans, politicians, they were not thrilled about this. In fact, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, when asked about Musk's post at a news conference, said this, quote, "We have freedom of opinion. It also goes for multi-billionaires. But freedom of opinion also means that you can say things that aren't right and don't contain good political advice." Okay, so pretty tame there. I say emphatically that the Democratic parties in Germany all see it differently. Now, Matthias Miersch, Secretary General of Scholz's Social Democrats, simply responded, "Stay out, Elon." As in, stay out of our politics. Like, yeah, we know that you bought Donald Trump, okay, and that you're trying to buy Nigel Farage. Not gonna buy us, mainly because they have actually they actually have some strict campaign finance limits in Germany. So maybe we should have something like that here, so we don't have billionaires that come in to buy our elections. But anyway, that would be nice, though. But anyway, even without Elon Musk's help, the far right has been ascending all over Europe. Okay, driven, I think, mainly from COVID inflation, and migration. All right. So now Germany is actually set to head to the polls on February 23rd, 2025, following the collapse of Scholz's center-left coalition. So you could end up in a situation where this AfD party gets some seats, and can be kingmaker. So that's pretty disastrous, okay? That said, it would be hard for them to actually get a good enough role or a big enough role in the government to shape policy or to put up a chancellor, because no other German party would actually work with AfD, because you have to create coalitions in a parliamentary system. And so there's not a lot of fear that they will win enough seats to be able to form a government, because nobody will work with them. But there still is concern, right? That they could win enough seats to be important. Okay. And so, yeah. And why is that a concern? What leads to these right wing, massively right wing neo-Nazi adjacent parties? What leads to them actually being a political force? It's neoliberalism. When neoliberalism breaks down, as it has been, it often leads to fascism, where you have these so-called right-wing populist movements. I don't think right-wing and populism actually go together whatsoever, but that's what they're calling them, right-wing populist movements. And so that's what we're seeing. But what's funny is that, Angela Merkel, what a socialist, right? No, she's considered centrist from a center-right party in Europe. I know, in America, a center-right party would be to, the left of the Democrats in America, okay? Just to show you how far to the right American politics actually is. But look, she had passed deeply unpopular healthcare reforms, increasing the amount of money employers and employees had to contribute to their healthcare. So not very popular on some of those policies. Also didn't want to increase taxes on the wealthy, and had argued for a balanced budget approach in order to stimulate growth. Okay, she was often compared to Margaret Thatcher, even though, to be fair, she did try to take on profit-seeking speculators during the Euro crisis, and was generally not one of those my way or the highway kinds of politicians. And so, but yeah, I love this continued need by people on the right, let's be honest, people on the right, right-wingers, and radical centrists. I love how they call everything socialism that they don't like, and whenever their policies don't work out, okay, as advertised, they mess up, they blame the left. They blame the socialisms, okay? Absolutely hilarious, because, yeah, look, I'm on the left. I'm a leftist. I can tell you what, I don't see a government really, or, a lot of government policy that represents my interests at all. Okay. We have no institutional power pretty much anywhere. Okay. In the United States, especially. A little bit more in Europe, because there are center left parties that, and things like universal healthcare in those countries, which is great. Labor power, worker co-ops, sign me up. Right? Those are great policies. We're not seeing those here in the United States. And to kind of circle back around, it's because of people like Elon Musk, who buy the system, and the fact that our system is for sale in the first place for any billionaire who coughs up enough money. Okay, so that's one of the problems, right? Now, getting back to this issue with Elon Musk, right? Neo-Nazis, people can't define socialists, for one, right? Can't do it. It's like when they try to define woke. When you ask somebody who's using that as pejorative, what's woke? What's woke? They don't know. They have no answer for it. And now it's the same as socialism, right? Nobody can define it really, unless you're on the left. Which, by the way, it's a system, an economic system, not a governmental system, which you have the workers that control the means of production, i.e., worker-owned companies. Wow, scary. Well, hey, if you're a Fortune 500, person or Wall Street guy, yeah, you're very, very worried about that. And that's why these are the same people that try to go and crush any movement for workers' rights, worker co-ops, things like that. But anyway, as far as the definition goes, neo-Nazis are actually quite easy to define. These are people who are ultra-nationalistic, anti-immigrant, anti-Semitic, usually Islamophobic along with it, okay? They're against the woke. They're anti-education. They're, in a lot of cases, to go along with the anti-Semitism, are people who deny the Holocaust, all right? And of course, one of the big things is they're anti-leftist, anti-communist, and anti-liberal. So, yeah, that generally would be a neo-Nazi. Yeah, and among other things, right? So, yeah, at the end of the day, here is the richest man in the world using his power to try to create a right-wing dystopia. By, of course, purchasing social media companies like X, along with politicians like Donald Trump, successfully in order to push his right-wing radical views. And he has been, unfortunately, because of the corruption in our system, very successful. On Thursday, House Republicans scrambled to come up with a new plan to fund the government after billionaires Elon Musk and President-elect Donald Trump tanked their first one on Wednesday. House Speaker Mike Johnson immediately fast-tracked a bill to the House floor, only to see it bombed by a vote of 174 to 235, with 38 Republicans voting no. It's very important because right now the Republican Party is currently saying, "Oh, those Democrats, why would you vote not to fund the government? It's all the Democrats' fault." Not really. Now, the failed bill would have funded the government until March, so it's a continuing resolution, provided billions in disaster assistance, and also suspend the federal government's borrowing limit for 2 years, which is kind of why it failed. Donald Trump's like, we got to remove the debt limit. Oh, okay, interesting. I'll get to that in a minute. But the bill also, by the way, stripped out a lot of important things, a lot of healthcare things. For example, $190 million from child cancer research. Yes. And by the way, this is right after another bill had passed. This had passed both the House and Senate. It's going to be on Biden's desk here real soon. That would fund the military over $800 billion for this year, or for the next year. So, no cuts in military spending, but plenty of cuts in child cancer research. So, pro-family, everybody. It's the pro-family party. Huh. Now, the previous legislation, the result of bipartisan negotiation, omitted the debt ceiling provision and also included several other items, including a pay raise for lawmakers. Which, if it had passed, and this was one thing that Elon Musk was posting about. He's like, it's going to give a 40% raise to our feckless politicians. Which, hey, I would be against that, but that is not true. Okay, now there is, or was, I should say, a raise, which, if it had passed, would have given a 3.8% raise. Roughly about $6,600 in additional salary per year for lawmakers. Now, look, personally, I believe that any congressional pay raise should be indexed to the minimum wage, because I think that, hey, if you get a pay raise, then so should the American people. Okay. But again, it's not the 40% that some idiots claimed, and it's not something to shut the government down over. Some other stuff that this did not include is an NFL stadium in Washington. Okay. Nor does it include funding for the GEC. So wait, what's the GEC? Basically, it's a government agency that conservatives claim is doing censorship against them. Now wait a minute. wait. Censorship against conservatives? Who? Where? The right wing in this country never shuts the fuck up. They are constantly driving the conversation. They are driving the news cycle. You can't get these people to shut up. All right? To claim that you're being censored. You have Fox News, which is the biggest, largest, most watched cable news channel in the country. Right? You have X/Twitter, which is pretty big. You got Meta, okay, which again, Mark Zuckerberg's given $1 million to Donald Trump's inauguration. All right. You got numerous local TV channels. You've got right-wing radio. Okay. You got all of that. And all the money. Who's being censored here? Who's being, honestly, somebody, oh my God. I want a conservative to actually show a real example of them being censored. All right. And what it was. I can guarantee you 9 times out of 10, it would be, I got censored for wanting to say the N-word. Oh, for saying that word. Oh, I'm being censored for my conservative beliefs. Which ones? You know the ones. I'm sure we do. Okay. Look, here's the thing. The GEC, kind of a bad idea. Okay. In my estimation, and let's be honest, but I don't think it's because it's, doing censorship, right? No, what it's there to do is to fight against Russian and Chinese disinformation, right? And so I don't think that's as big of an issue as the disinformation being put out by our own homegrown people. But what you do actually is, I don't know, maybe you get better at putting out your message. The Democrats need to get good at putting out a cogent message. And maybe they need to engage with, I don't know, left-wing content creators a little bit more. Maybe actually go on their shows instead of insulating themselves in the bubble of Beltway media. Because that's what it is. It's a bubble. And people don't trust that, right? And people are not getting their information from that. They're getting their information now from independent media. And so, hey, Democrats, go where the people are. You got to meet the people where they're at. Are they going on podcasts? Are they going, I guess Charlemagne the God, but all right, or Pod Save America. But are you actually going on small creator, to talk to them? Donald Trump and the Republicans did that. They went on people with small audiences. Donald Trump sitting there having a conversation with a podcaster and nobody knew the prior day. And then suddenly that person gets elevated, blown up in that ecosystem. We do not do that here on the left. The Democratic Party does not support independent content creators at all. And in reality, the Democratic Party establishment hates small creators. Well, because we criticize them sometimes. Well, then, yeah, that's what happens. So come on. And, if we get something wrong, set the record straight. Have a conversation. Okay? Have a conversation. But anyway, that's the thing. Getting back to the GEC, right? They don't actually focus on America or the United States. It's only to fight Russian and Chinese disinformation, right? And they, I don't think, have been doing a very good job of it. All right. And so, anyway, this new bill strips funding from them. Okay. Although, here's the thing, though. The right-wing reaction to this is hilarious. They actually believe that, this is going to shut us down. Why are you doing disinformation? I mean, if you didn't think that you were doing disinformation all the time, then why would you be worried about getting shut down? No, look, censorship historically comes for the left. Why? It's when they say things that are true. All right? When they say things that are true, but end up not being good for the right-wing or neoliberal governments that are in power. Things like, hey, Turns out the Iraq does not have weapons of mass destruction. The official, state was like, no, they have weapons of mass destruction. No, they didn't. But anybody who said that, oh, you're doing disinformation. Oh, okay, yeah. Or you like terrorism. Or here's a more recent example, right? Hey, Israel's bombing innocent people in schools and hospitals. That's not good. Hamas terrorist sympathizer. That's what you are. Fake news. Hamas. Yeah, why are you supporting Hamas? Come on. Look, our government supports Israel and loves war in the Middle East. Loved shutting down those conversations, which were in large part driven by the left, calling out war, calling out Israel for its atrocities. And by the way, there's majority of the American people that are like, hey, we don't want our tax money to go to these bombs that are being used on innocent people. And of course, the other thing that they want to shut down now is anybody who says, maybe Luigi had a point about our healthcare system. That's another conversation that they would love to shut down. Okay. And again, a lot of that is being driven by the left. Okay. With a lot of agreement, by the way, from many on the right. Yeah. It turns out right and left, not exactly fans of our for-profit healthcare system. So yeah, that said, the funding for that, the GEC, gone. And it also left a lot of other things out. But that is not why it failed. No, the main reason that it failed, in my estimation, was because of something they put in, which is the increase in the debt limit that Trump was asking for. Some of the people in the party, as well as the Democrats, were like, I don't know about that. In fact, Hakeem Jeffries went after Republicans for pushing to add the debt ceiling demand into the bill, saying that they were going to do so that they could pass deficit finance tax cuts in Trump's second term. So it only lasts 2 years. This debt limit increase. So, I mean, they're expecting, in 2 years to lose the House and Senate in the midterms? So they want to do as much deficit financed, spending as they can. Interesting. But look, here's what Hakeem Jeffries said. Quote, it's been interesting that to me that for decades, the Republican Party has lectured America about fiscal responsibility, about the debt and the deficit. It's always been phony. This bill proves it. Yeah, look, tax cuts for the rich. Let's be honest, they are the largest driver of the deficit. In fact, in 2023, a study found that the Bush tax cuts have added $10 trillion to the debt since their enactment and are responsible for 57% of the increase in the debt ratio since 2001. Yeah, the Bush tax cuts. Trump tax cuts added even more debt and will continue to add more debt. More than 90% of the increase, by the way, in the debt ratio, if the one-time costs of the bills responding to COVID-19 and the Great Recession get excluded. So basically, tax cuts drive debt. I know. We do not have a spending problem. We have a revenue problem. Basically, rich people are not paying their fair share. Okay? We are a low-tax country compared to Europe. Now, the thing is, though, you ask average people, and they're going to be like, what are you talking about, low taxes? I'm being taxed on my ass right now. You're right. You would be correct about that. We are. We do pay all sorts of taxes as the little guy. And you know why that is? Rich people are getting their tax burdens cut, which the burden gets shifted now onto us, the middle class and the working class. That's it. We pay more of a percentage of our income than some of the richest Americans, like Elon Musk. And so that's the reality, okay? That's the reality here. Now, that said, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they actually want to go further, okay? And do even more tax cuts when they get into power. So, I mean, again, that's the reality here, right? Now, that said, there are Republicans out there that voted against this, 38 of them. A lot of them didn't like getting rid of the debt ceiling. Strangely, for example, Chip Roy, somebody that I don't agree with often, said this: "I'm not going to raise or suspend the debt ceiling, racking up more debt without a significant and real spending cuts attached to it. We should instead have revenue increases because the amount of government spending that we're doing now is actually much lower than it was in the past. Because all they do is cut spending and cut taxes. That's what they're doing." But anyway, Trump wasn't happy about that, saying Chip Roy is just another ambitious guy, no talent. Yeah, so there you go. That said, as I mentioned before, Musk and the others, they're trying to blame Democrats for this, saying, it's the Democrats. I want to shut down the government. No, because in reality, Republicans have a majority in the House. So if the government shuts down, then this is on you for not being able to get your caucus together. Time is a ticking before there is a massive shutdown. So y'all better act quick, or you're going to ruin a lot of people's holiday. In what is not at all surprising, a company owned by two of Donald Trump's top mega donors has been busted, illegally bringing in dozens of workers from Mexico in order to staff its warehouses. Uline, an office and shipping company controlled by the billionaires Liz and Dick Uline, has been shuttling in workers from Mexico who are using tourist visas and visas meant for employees who are entering the U.S. temporarily to receive professional training, known as B1 visas. Now, instead of being part of a training program where they're not supposed to work and earn money, the Mexican employees stay for 1 to 6 months and perform normal work in Uline's U.S. warehouses. Of course. This is according to sources with direct knowledge speaking to The Guardian, who did an investigation, a months-long investigation, finding that Uline is exploiting immigrant workers. That's right. Illegally, right? Now, of course, here's the thing. This is a pretty big issue of hypocrisy, right? The thing is, it is not going to matter. To anyone who, supports Trump, supports the Ulines, it's either, the reaction is going to be a fake news, right? Or we don't care, all right? And that's really it. Again, the hypocrisy, right? And so I don't even want to bother with that because the Ulines obviously funded Donald Trump, and Trump wants to deport the immigrants that are destroying America, right? Poisoning the blood of the country. And so, no, we're not going to bother with that. The thing that I want to get to is how they're exploiting immigrant labor and how they should be punished for it, okay? And how they probably won't be. Now, the company has allegedly used employees without proper work permits, even as Uline's super PAC Restoration supported Trump's presidential campaign with a TV ad attacking his opponent, Kamala Harris, for allowing an immigrant invasion at the U.S.-Mexico border. And so shuttling immigrants from Mexico to come work in your factories illegally, that's totally fine. Not an invasion. But, people running from corrupt governments or, violence, gang violence, spurred on by our, drug war, as well as natural disasters. Those are the invaders. I see. I see how that works. The Ulines have actually spent tens of millions of dollars supporting candidates, including Trump and other right-wing politicians who have called for mass deportations of immigrants. All while they're bringing in undocumented, immigrants under false pretenses, so incorrect documentation in order to exploit them. Projection, as always, with these ghouls, these people. Now, the Ulines were the second largest political donors in this year's election. that actually gave more than even sissy SpaceX himself, Elon Musk, the world's richest man. Great. Now, of course, one of the reasons that rich people give so much down Trump is for his tax cuts and deregulation. That's what a Trump administration will bring. Okay, it's going to happen. There are going to be massive tax cuts for the rich and deregulation on corporations. So expect that, right? Expect it, and expect none of it to trickle down to you, because it never trickles down. But here's the thing, though. It gets worse. Not only are they bringing them over from Mexico, right, these workers under false pretenses, but Guardian reporters also observed a dozen Uline workers from Mexico living in a company hotel. Okay, this is, or a hotel near the company's Pleasant Prairie headquarters. I call it a company hotel because basically this hotel has been paid for, blocks of rooms purchased for these immigrants to stay in for 1 to 6 months. So the company pays for their lodging, food, and rental cars. In fact, a staff member at the hotel confirmed that Uline was among the first customers at the hotel to book blocks of suites for workers when the hotel opened about 3 years ago. And again, they're pretty well furnished, okay, for people to stay there for long periods of time. So I would basically call that a company hotel. Now, of course, a little arrangement is, it might sound nice. Oh, look at, they're paying for room and board and food and all this wonderful stuff. Oh, that's great. I wish my company would do that. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because here's the thing. It gives the company so much power over the workers. Okay. Not only can they threaten the workers with deportation, right? But they could also be like, hey, you better, do your job. Don't complain. Don't complain about conditions. Don't complain about pay, whatever, because we will stop paying for your stuff. We will stop paying for your lodging. We will send you back to Mexico. So that really is straight up exploitation. All right. Now, sources who spoke to The Guardian also alleged that executives at the highest level of the company knew about this, including Liz Uline. Yeah. Now, the question, though, here is, all right, so they knew about this little operation. Why do it? Why are you flouting immigration law to hire workers from Mexico? When, again, you want to have these, you want to have people who are here, without the right documentation, kicked out of the country. Doesn't make sense, does it? Well, it actually does. Sources said that this could be connected to the company's strict and complicated hiring practices, which include follicle drug testing of employees. One said, quote, this is one person with close knowledge of the matter saying they were not able to staff their warehouses, especially in Pennsylvania. So they looked at Mexico for a workforce. Wait a minute. Hold on. I was told that it was the immigrants that are bringing the drugs. They're bringing the crime. But it turns out, no, it's the Americans that are doing the drugs and doing the crime, which is why they apparently cannot get jobs at these warehouses. Now, as far as the crime goes, too, it looks like the bosses were doing crime by breaking immigration law. Now, the Mexican workers have an implicit understanding that they should tell border officials that they are entering the U.S. to be trained at Uline. One Uline document seen by The Guardian, which was used by an employee in Mexico to enter the U.S., said the employee would be receiving training in warehouse safety, understanding how to use vehicle-mounted unit devices, and understanding how to identify warehouse locations, which would not take about 6 months to learn. Seriously. I mean, oh yeah, warehouse safety. It's a few hours of training by the computer. Okay. As far as like vehicle-mounted devices, I learned how to drive a high-low in a day, less than a day. It doesn't mean I was good at it, but I learned how to drive one. Not a problem. And so, like, that does not take 6 months. Okay. And legal experts said that the B1 visas are intended to be used for the short-term visits, right? No longer than 6 months. And that workers are not meant to engage in productive employment in that time. So what happened, though? Well, sources allege that once the Mexican workers entered the U.S., they would work regular shifts in the Uline warehouses alongside of their American counterparts. Oh, well, that seems illegal. It doesn't just seem illegal, that is totally illegal. In fact, the person with direct knowledge of the situation said they are actually doing work, not training. Person added that Uline was very careful with the amount of time that the Mexican employees stayed in the U.S. as a way to, of course, cover their ass. Cover your ass. That's what they're doing. Okay. No, can't have these. It's basically temp workers, okay, which you can use and abuse and then throw away, and then you just shuttle in the next group. All right. And so they're not only exploiting like temporary work, they're also doing temporary work visas, exploiting those, as well as lying about them doing actual work. They're not getting training. Now, why would they take this risk, though? Why would Uline take all these risks? And then, pay out for room and board? Doesn't make any sense, right? For warehouse workers? Well, here's where it starts to make sense. Turns out they are paid Mexican wages into accounts in Mexico. And although they receive extra compensation for traveling to the U.S. and staying there, at the end of the day, they are paid far less than their American counterparts. And there it is. So at the end of the day, they still, even with all that, they still end up paying these people way, way less than American workers. And that's what it's all about. Okay. And the other thing is, not only can they pay them, very low wages, which they do, those workers will never be here long enough to use, to get benefits like healthcare. And as a bonus, they can be controlled through their food, housing, and immigration status. It is perfect arrangement for this company. Perfect arrangement. Which is why the requests for Mexican participants come from a senior executive at Uline's Pleasant Prairie headquarters, where some of the warehouses are based, according to internal documents. So executives know, Liz Uline knows, very likely that they both know. Okay, and there it is. Now, of course, immigration experts, including lawyers and advocates for immigrant rights, say, yeah, this is definitely illegal. The B1 visas that are being used by some of the workers to enter the U.S. are intended for workers to train or briefly attend a seminar or conferences, not allows them to work alongside of American employees. Quote, this is Mark Christopher, a Wisconsin-based immigration lawyer. It does not allow them to obtain wages for labor in the United States. It absolutely does not. If they're doing warehouse work, especially second or third shift, that's not a close call. That is 100% absolutely not allowed. Ira Kurtzbahn, another immigration lawyer, said he believed that it was clearly illegal for the company to be engaged in a pattern of conduct that possibly involved labor trafficking of people who were coming under one pretense, but actually coming for another reason. That would be false pretenses. That would be a lie. Quote, this is the whole, Uline's alleged use of its Mexican workers to staff warehouses in the U.S., Kurtzbahn said, underscored the real difficulties facing companies in being able to secure legal arrangements for workers. And so that's the other thing. Funny enough, it kind of points out an issue with our terrible, antiquated immigration system that is massively broken and that Republicans refuse to fix. Why do they refuse to fix it? So that, well, stuff like this can happen. Where they can get immigrant workers, shuttle them in from Mexico, exploit them, while driving down American wages, by the way. Okay, so that's the other after effect of this. And they get away with it. So, of course, they don't want to fix that system. It works very, very well for them and makes these companies very, very profitable. All while the owners are out there saying, oh, we need to kick out all the immigrants. They're destroying this country. We agree with Donald Trump. That's where we give him millions of dollars. Yeah. So, but again, the hypocrisy, for them, it doesn't matter. In fact, here's what Kurtzman said. Quote, this is the whole false premise of Trump. I mean, the idea that these people are taking jobs away from Americans, they're not. We need millions of people to do this kind of work. We've always looked away, even though we know most people who fulfill these kinds of jobs are not allowed to be working in the U.S. Again, that's why they don't want to fix it. There's another immigration lawyer, Mo Goldman of Arizona, said that it's common practice for employers to call him and ask him how to legally employ foreign workers, only to find that the legal processes are, quote, very restrictive and difficult to navigate. It does force employers to look at other ways to get workers here because they cannot find the workforce in the United States. And there it is. Shocker, immigrants are not taking the jobs. Okay, they're not stealing your job. They're taking your gerbs. Okay, no, they're not. Americans don't want to do those jobs for what these companies offer. All right. Oh, and they don't want to work in the conditions that they're forced to work in. That's it. And they don't want to be controlled by these companies. And these companies do want to underpay you, and they do want to control your life. That's it. Christine Newman Ortiz, director of the Wisconsin immigrant and labor rights group Voices de la Frontera, said that she believes the program was clearly undermining wages for all the workers at the company. Quote, it is a way for Uline to undercut wages for U.S. workers, while also not paying justly the Mexican workers for what their co-workers are earning here for the exact same work, while also having to sacrifice time away from their families and communities. She also noted the irony of the Ulines profiting off the backs of Mexicans, even as they support a presidential campaign, and now president-elect, who has vowed to deport immigrants, disparages them, and wants to take away birthright citizenship. It really shows the cynicism. It's a model of international labor exploitation, while at the same time really putting money into this propaganda campaign to try to pit workers against each other. They want to maintain immigration, but under very oppressed conditions. And there it is. Again, I could sit here and call out the hypocrisy, but no one cares. No one cares at all. So you know what? I don't care. I don't care about the hypocrisy. You know what I want to do, though? I want to call the government to do their job. Investigate this company. And if you find out they're breaking immigration law, if you actually cared about this, then maybe this company should be fined heavily. And you know what? If it were up to me, I'd go further. I'd put them out of business. What? Yeah. Oh, are you not hiring American? Oh, you're not hiring American, are you? Not only are you not hiring American, but you're abusing the immigration system. Well, that's it. Your business license, gone. And your CEO, your board members, anyone who had any knowledge of these illegal hiring practices, shuttling people from Mexico under false pretenses, you're human trafficking. And that's what you're going to get hit with. Oh, heads would roll. Oh, now, of course, Donald Trump, he would never have the balls to actually be able to, enforce immigration law. Do you, Trump? Do you not have the nutsack to be able to hold these people accountable? Ha! Not your donors. No, you're a little chicken shit bitch. That's what you're going to do. You're going to bow right down to the donors, to people who own you, like Elon Musk. While, just saying out the side of your mouth, okay, lying out your mouth, like, oh, no, the immigrants, oh, what terrible, oh my God, I can't believe the immigrants are coming in, while you're also crawling on your hands and knees to these donors and be like, oh, please give me money, because you're a bitch. That's what you are. You're cucked for billionaires. For other ones. For Elon Musk. That's it. That's what you are. Unless, of course, you actually really want to crack down on these criminal CEOs. You'll never do it. You'll never do it. You'll never crack down on the people who are making these decisions, who are bringing these people over, exploiting them, screwing over the American worker. I don't know. Let's see some balls. Let's see some balls. But I can guarantee 100% you'll never do it because you're a bitch. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe with the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.